Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday!
Hey,
no Browns
hey,
game.
hey.
We ruined the weekend. That's a plus. Everybody should have a great weekend.
Oh, yeah, we got that out of our system about 4 or 5 days ago.
Purge. But we do have a Bucks game that could make or break the weekend.
He came right back ready to go.
Right, you always got to live on the edge.
Ready to fire.
You always have to live on the edge. Last night's game was pretty good. Congratulations to Notre Dame. I was kind of pulling for an all Big Ten final, which would have been interesting because it would have included two teams that didn't win the Big Ten championship.
Right? That's weird.
It is.
We need
Jason doesn't have a mic on. Jason, come on.
Oh, hold on.
I mean,
He's going to make a good point, too. I can
pull
tell
this
by
together?
his face lit up. I'm like, he's going somewhere good.
We need to fix the way we look at college football.
I agree with that.
It is no longer what it was.
Right.
I was going to write this. Famous last words.
Conference championships are stupid at this point.
Well, because
they're much less meaningful than they used to be.
the year
and so is the Ohio State-Michigan game.
I'm sure there's other teams that have done this, but this is the first one that popped in my mind. The Steelers were like the 6th seed. They were the last team and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A few years ago. You remember that?
I do.
Mm-hmm. Did anyone
more than a few years ago at this point?
It's the first one that popped
All
up.
right, yeah.
Did anyone say, well, they didn't win the division?
No,
So that's where we're at. Like, I came around on this.
Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
In the old days, disqualifier.
But I
Done.
sort of came around on this when we were on vacation. It was like, losing to Michigan is not as penalizing as it was in the old way. And we just need to get with it.
Yeah.
That, like, it doesn't matter anymore.
I
Well,
agree
it
with
still
you.
matters for fans.
It doesn't.
It does
Fans
in that
care.
moment. In that
Yeah.
moment, it does. But here's an example. Do you think if Pittsburgh or Baltimore go on to win the Super Bowl, they're going to say, but we lost to Cleveland?
No,
Yeah,
don't
no.
care.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But we are so used to it mattering because in a 4-team,
it used to.
if they lost to Michigan 14 playoff, they're out. They're not
Jay,
even in.
Even more so when it used to be 2 teams.
Oh, yeah.
You lose in the regular season.
You lose your last
regular stakes, you are done.
You
But
lose your
I
last
still
regular
think
season
you-
game and it's over.
You're out.
I still think you guys are conflating two different arguments in a way, but because the game,
Bull,
yes, it
still
doesn't matter.
It still matters. Of course it does. What you're saying is what
Yeah.
I've said all along is that it matters far less. Far less. If at the end of the year Ohio State does beat Texas and Notre Dame and wins the title, how many Michigan fans do you think you would ask this question to? And I know we've got some that are on this show. Steve can answer this if he'd like. I've asked a ton of them, and I got the answer I thought I'd get. Would you rather be Ohio State or Michigan?
Of course, you'd rather be Ohio State. Yeah.
We're going to remember the Natty. We're not going to remember the loss to Michigan.
It kind of sucks that it doesn't matter.
I agree.
But it doesn't matter.
It's a professional sport.
And I was screaming as loud as anybody. He's got to go. And we all feel the same way about
We're
Ryan
going to
Day.
get back to this topic later.
It matters
Yeah.
for the people that's the boosters that's paying his tuition to get to say, we're paying his salary to get to say whether he goes or stays.
But if they win
Because
the
you
national
keep-
title,
if they win the national title, go ask the
doesn't matter.
boosters
Yeah.
how they feel about Ryan Day.
But if it gets to a point, say for instance, you think about it, Ohio State is a blue chip organization. You could put 95 coaches in there and they still would do the same thing. It's about whether or not they like him at that moment. Because they can always
You guys
find
keep
another
saying
guy.
it doesn't matter if they win the national championship, and you're right. But if they lose to Texas tonight, then it matters again.
Of course it does.
Yes.
Of course. My
Yeah.
argument is based on this. If you keep winning, a loss in the regular season is a loss in the regular season. Do you think at the end of the year, Notre Dame is going to be crushed that Northern Illinois dinked them
No, they're
early
not.
in the season? I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. I always used to laugh. Could you imagine in the NFL where there's a fourth of the teams at the end of the season, if people locked themselves in a room and voted on who's going to play in the Super Bowl?
oh,
That thought is absurd, but that's the way we did it in college football forever.
Yeah.
Oh, we're still doing it that way to some degree.
But we're not voting 2 teams in. There are automatic qualifiers, and there's 12. So it's different.
Yeah.
But the idea that there is a vote, I agree. The idea that there's a vote is absurd.
Can you imagine how much longer John Cooper could have coached if there was a playoff?
Forever. Although John
Had
had
to
trouble
win
in
the
bowl games
championship,
too.
though.
John had trouble in bowl games too. He did. His record against Michigan in the bowl
The
games.
SEC. He lost to Tennessee a couple times.
He
in the
lost
Citrus
to
Bowls.
Tennessee. He lost to Alabama a couple of
Georgia.
times.
I think he lost to Georgia.
Yeah, he
The
had some
SEC
bad
got
bowl
him.
losses,
He did.
too.
You're
Guys,
right.
before we get to, we got a lot of things to get to, obviously, but I just wanted to spend a minute explaining things. I know you guys know this, but there's a lot of fans, and I get these questions every year. So I said to Mike, let me just explain this for a minute.
Are there a lot of fans that don't know this
That
process?
don't really understand arbitration.
I was surprised at that.
Yeah. So every year, so if you were paying attention yesterday, you saw that the Guardians came to contract terms with Stephen Kwan and Lane Thomas on a contract for this year. So what does that mean? I won't get into every last detail of it, but generally, players have to play for 6 years in the big leagues before they become free agents. There are obviously situations where guys have to play 7. I'm not going to get into the complications of what the difference is. But basically, when a guy plays 6 years in the big leagues, then he becomes a free agent. In those first 6 years, generally, again, there are different rules depending on how long you're in the big leagues, but generally, the first 3 years, the team completely controls what they pay you. The first year, you get minimum salary. And then after that, the team does not have to give you another dime. They can pay you minimum salary for the first 3 years you're in the league. A lot of guys that are good will get little bonuses. There is now a rule in the CBA where if you finish in the top 3 for an award, you get a bonus from the league. But generally, you get paid almost
And teams
nothing.
usually choose to do the prior.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
don't volunteer more money.
Yeah, especially the smaller market teams that don't spend a lot.
Yes.
They don't rate. Now, the final 3 years, you are eligible for arbitration. This doesn't happen in football. It doesn't happen in basketball, so folks are not used to it. And they'll see, oh, this guy signed. Well, he was under control. The Guardians had control of Stephen Kwan. But once it gets to this point where Stephen Kwan's eligible for arbitration as he is, Lane Thomas is in his last year of arbitration. How it works is, the player will ask for a certain amount. It's based on previous year comps of similar type players. The team will offer a certain amount. Most cases, they come to an agreement somewhere in the middle. It's never good to go to arbitration because if you go to arbitration, then you have to basically, as the team, tell the arbitrator why this player is not worth more money. It leads to bad blood between the organization
I don't want to know,
and the player.
What's insane is a lot of times they're apart by like $500,000.
It can happen
It's
like
stupid.
that.
It's
Really.
$500,000, and you're going to go in there and
It's insane.
denigrate a player you're going to count on tomorrow
Exactly.
over $500,000.
And by the way, future jeopardize your chances of signing him after his deal is up.
In fact, Corbin Burns, who was with the Brewers,
There's
then
a lot
was
of
with
guys
the
that have
Orioles,
said-
and now just signed with Arizona, said he was really pissed after that.
A lot of
And I
guys
blame
never
him. Yeah.
forget it. They
and
never
that's
forget
why most teams
well,
try to
Bull,
avoid it.
imagine how awkward it is. Let's just put this in our situations,
Yeah.
okay? Let's say that we had to do that with our boss.
Right.
And we had to sit in the room. It's a super awkward situation.
Yes.
And we had to sit in a room and listen to our boss tell us why we're not worth what we think we
That's-
are. I mean, who wouldn't be offended?
That's gonna be- you're gonna piss some-
I
yeah.
thought both, and we're going to start the show with this,
Yeah.
obviously, but both cases yesterday were huge wins for Cleveland.
Yeah, the fact that, and the Guardians have done a very good job of not going to arbitration. They don't rarely. There's few teams that do it. Most teams try to avoid it at all costs. And the Guardians settled with all their arbitration eligible
Right.
players, and so there you go. So when Lane Thomas, it's just a contract for this year. Now you can sign a guy to an extension,
Right.
and so there are a handful of guys that did not reach settlements. Kyle Tucker, who the Cubs just acquired, he's asking for 15.5. The Cubs are offering 13.5. To me, it's stupid that they
Dumb.
can't. And they probably you can still find a middle ground before their hearing, but it's really bad to go to a hearing. So there you go.
And the last thing I would add to that, once you hit arbitration, that's when guys start making more money, and it becomes harder to sign them.
Yes.
And once they reach arbitration, and now that
In all
Kwan's there,
likelihood, Quan
Yeah.
is gone.
yeah,
In all
this
likelihood.
is
At
his,
some point, yes.
This is his first year of arbitration.
Right.
They control him for 2 more seasons after this, and you just saw what they did with Naylor with a year left out.
They moved him out.
So
Now, the only thing I'll say about Kwan, and then we can move on, is that because he's not a power hitter, I know he hit for more home runs last year.
Right.
He doesn't profile as a player that's going to get a huge contract when he's a free
No,
agent.
he's not going to be a $30 million a year
Right.
guy.
So I would say it's still possible that they
Jason's
can sign
shaking his
him.
head.
well, we said the same thing about Naylor. We said Naylor wasn't going to cash in
Well, but
on big
Naylor's a
money.
power hitter.
But we
Well, but he's not going to get a big contract either.
And they
But
still
you're saying
traded
he's
him.
gone.
Yeah.
Yes, the difference is Kwan is the type of player I don't think the Guardians moved on from Naylor because they couldn't sign him. I don't think they wanted to sign him.
Agree.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
the
there's
difference.
both of that. I think both
Naylor's
things
the
are-
type of player that's probably not going to age well because of his body type,
Right.
whereas Quan's more likely to
Quan's
age
been in
well.
the league 3 years. He's got 3 gold
It's
gloves.
not like
So-
it's not like they woke up today and said, "Oh shit, he's arbitration eligible." We've
No,
never
I
heard him
hear
sign
you.
him.
Yeah,
They've been
right.
trying to sign him
I'm not saying it's
since his rookie year.
To
and
your
it hasn't
point-
happened yet.
Yeah, but to Jay's
Yeah.
point, when it reaches the point of arbitration, the reason most of those guys end up getting away because
He just
believe me,
quadrupled
there have
his
been
salary.
efforts behind the scenes for the Guardians to sign up, extend
Sure,
him to a
absolutely,
deal.
yes.
But Naylor's people Quan's people and probably Quan himself have been looking at his trajectory and his numbers
Yeah.
and saying, "No, we think we're going to play this out."
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
In the end, you're right. It probably won't sign him. I'm just saying I'll still leave a little bit of a possibility
And
because it's
let's-
not going to be a huge contract.
Let's see what happens with ownership over the next couple of
That's
years.
true, too.
That could
That
play
could
a role
change
in this
things.
as well. But he
Yeah.
starting today, he just quadrupled his salary
Yes.
roughly from what he was
Yeah,
last
it
year.
might time out. I don't think it'll be the exact same year, but new ownership, the Blitzer Group is expected to have complete ownership of the Guardians in, I believe, 4 or 5 years. I'm not exactly sure of. I thought I remember it being 7 years at the time of the deal.
I've never gotten a number, so if
Yeah.
you've got a number, good on you.
I mean,
because
I've heard things,
they
little
have
things, but
played that tight to the vest.
yeah, we don't know. But I do think the one thing we all know is that at sometime in the near future, the Blitzer Group is going to be the primary owners.
Yeah.
And at that point, I would imagine that the tables will switch
Let's hope.
and they'll start spending some money. Okay, Mike.
We also know the Cavs are really freaking good, and they won again. We're going to dive into what we learned from the Raptors game last night after a quick word from Game Time. I love going to live events, sports, music, comedy shows. If it's live, I'm there. Some of my favorite memories from 2024. We're going to Cavs games in person, and Game Time helped me get the best tickets possible online. And they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Anthony's on the Game Time app right now looking at tickets for Sunday's home game against the Pacers. Ant, what's the best deal in Game Time right now?
Right now, you can get a ticket for $29, but act fast. There's only 2 tickets left at that price.
So that'll be going in the next couple minutes. Make sure you guys use Game Time to get your tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets for anything online with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. It is game time. I totally botched the motto.
I mean,
I'm
what
sorry.
happened?
I'm going to do it again. What time is it? It's game,
Game time. Oh, Mike.
There we
You
go.
ju-
Bad,
I mean,
bad job out of me.
You set me up every time. What are
Hey,
you doing?
listen, you get 4 people on the panel, you start fumbling the bag.
Man.
Bad job out of me.
Right.
The Cavs last night beat the Toronto Raptors despite a scheduled rest night from Donovan Mitchell, and it was Darius Garland who led the way with a 40-point performance. Jason, Bull, Jay, it's a hell of a display from DG carrying the offense late without Donovan Mitchell on his side.
And you knew, and even before the game, Kenny Atkinson said, and I love his honesty, he's like, yeah, this is a game that could be a trap game. You know, you just played this biggest game. I mean, Brian Windhorst called it the best regular season NBA game he's seen, I think he said in 20 years. I don't remember exactly how many years he said. But, and obviously everybody was super pumped. The crowd was super pumped. And then the next day you're playing one of the worst teams in the NBA. So even though the Cavs were a 15-point favorite, I thought it would be close. I think a lot of good teams would have lost that game to Toronto last night because Toronto came to play. They played a good game. They scored a lot of points. But it doesn't matter. Even without Donovan Mitchell, and even with certainly expecting somewhat of a letdown the next day, the Cavs in the end always find a way to pull it out. They've done it time and time again. And Darius Garland was sensational. He backed up his good performance against Oklahoma City by carrying the team without Donovan yesterday.
I wonder, I'll ask Jason and Mike, you can chime in on this because this is just a question that came to my mind when I heard that Mitchell was not going to play. Does it seem to you guys that Kenny is making a concerted effort to prioritize and maybe even empower and help build the confidence of Darius Garland, as if he's to say, hey, I'm going to give the team to you tonight, and I want you to save us from what could be, what Bull said, a very bad loss, a trap game loss. It just seems to me like there are times where, and there was a point during Oklahoma City where he brought Mitchell out of the game early, fairly early, when it was clear that he was struggling, and kind of said, this is your team right now. Go show everybody what you can do.
Yeah, I think I think there's some truth to that. We've talked about it at length about empowering some of these other guys and giving them the ball in big moments. Darius had the big bucket at the end of the OKC game, had the big bucket at the end last night. I think it's twofold. I think it's also where I thought you were going with this was the Donovan component of he thought he was playing too many minutes last year. Mm-hmm. And I think the Cavs I think Kenny learned from Brooklyn the importance of that relationship with star players. We talked about that. That's what lost him the job in Brooklyn. It was a priority for him to establish a relationship with Donovan, and I don't know about this last night. I know his previous maintenance night was set like prior to the start of the season. Like,
oh, really?
This was also scheduled, Jason.
Okay, so there's two where they looked at the schedule at the start of the season and said, okay, you're going to sit here and you're going to sit here.
It makes sense that he sit in that game.
Yeah, and especially coming off the high intensity of the OKC game.
Right.
His previous maintenance day was prior to the Boston game to gear him up for Boston, which makes sense. And I'm sure there's probably more to come. But I think that he had the knee thing down the stretch last year.
Yeah.
And I think that they're trying to be smart and proactive about this and working with him on this to get his minutes and his time where he went. Because last year became a thing where it just became a thing.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to avoid that. And I think they've done a great job of that.
I look at it like this. I think we got to start giving credit to the guys on an individual basis. I think you got to start looking at Darius Garland, and we got to say, instead of thinking that Donovan Mitchell has played a role in his rehabilitation or Kenny Atkinson has unlocked him, let's give credit to Darius Garland. Darius Garland, he probably feels I've been nice. I made an all-star team before they got here. Like, I had a bad year last year, and I like what he said the other day when he said, I'm tired of being nice. Like, you asking me, am I all-star? Hell yeah, I'm an all-star.
I like that too.
Hell yeah, I'm an all-star. And when you can see that way he's playing in confidence, look at him. He dancing on this dude at the top of the key. Step back game. Like, he hit the Kyrie jumper yesterday. Like, I love the fact that when you was watching Darius Garland, he was playing at a pace where it was like, oh, y'all know y'all gonna lose, right? Like, I'm not even. Yeah, y'all was winning by 5-6. The Raptors did a good job of being up the whole entire game, but Darius Garland never had that panic on his face. He played in control. He got to the basket when he wanted to, and I think right now we got to start having to give these guys credit for having basketball situational intelligence, right? He understood what the process was, and he understood what the climate was. He knew last game Donovan is out. Now I'm going to step up. I'm that guy. So I've done this before. Look how he walking back to the bench. Like, I knew that was going in. Look at that. Look, this is why when you say, why are you so high on the Cavs? It's because they're not only playing with confidence, they're playing with awareness and knowing what they need to do at a specific time to win a game. That game was a game where, hey, we ain't got Donovan. Hey, maybe some of these shots ain't falling from the outside. So let me go ahead and get in my bag and get to it. Mobley and Allen are going to do what they're going to do. Darius realized that he needed to turn it on, and he made shots down the stretch. So this is why they are so hard to beat, because they're showing you now, oh, don't get it twisted. We got Donovan that can give us 40. We're going to show you Darius can get you 40, and we can show that our bigs can close you out and dominate inside too. So that's why this team is so impressive to me.
Speaking of the bigs, the last two nights, Mobley and Allen combined, 32 of 44 from the field. That's 73%.
We're hearing a lot of Robinson-Duncan comparisons
Yeah,
too.
that's
all of a
right.
sudden.
I want to go back to what you're saying about Darius, though. He's in his sixth year. He's 25 years old. He's not a kid anymore. And I think Darius has grown up more from the end of last season to this season, maybe than he did in his first 5 years in the league.
Is there anything you contribute that to?
I think probably how bad last year was.
Struggles.
Yeah, I think the struggles. And like the one thing, and we touched on this toward the end of last season, but the one thing that like I kept hearing was everything's a joke, doesn't take anything serious. Like Donovan is the most ultimate professional. Donovan is old for his age, and Darius was a little young for his age. And I mean, he didn't win at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was terrible when he was there. And like he didn't win his first couple of years in the league. They weren't very good. So he just had to sort of figure it out. And I think he's done that. I just think he strikes me as much more mature this year than I think he's been in the past.
I agree with you. I would attribute that to his struggles too. But if we're going to split the pie, what percentage of it would you say is the rub-off effect from Donovan Mitchell? Because I think that has a lot to do with it. I think Donovan leading the way, showing him how to be a pro, kind of like a big brother. At first, I wasn't sure that relationship was going, that they were going to mesh.
Yeah.
And there were times last year where I thought there was evidence that it wasn't going to mesh. Well, but now I look at it now. Was anybody happier for Darius Garland last night than Donovan Mitchell?
No. I think Donovan truly loves seeing how he's grown and how he's developed and how he's flourishing. And to your point, their first year together, they were fine. There were no questions about, like, there were not all these questions about, can these guys play together? That all popped up last year because Darius had a terrible year. And we've talked at length about some of the reasons why that may be. But their games do fit. Mike and I think both agreed, like, if you got to break up the front court or the back court, I don't think we ever thought you got to break up the back court. It was always, for me, it was if you have to break one of them, it's probably going to have to be the front court. Darius and Donovan are two talented players. They're going to figure this out. So it's good to see, obviously, that they've come together on this. And Donovan, I think, is thrilled for Darius's growth and thrilled that he's sort of growing into this player that, I mean, listen, it's time. Darius has got the richest, at the time he signed, it was the richest contract in franchise history. You got one All-Star appearance.
And it didn't look like it was aging well.
You got one All-Star appearance in 5 years.
Right.
And like, you could, there was a lot of point guards coming into this year that you could name that you would probably take over Darius Garland. So it was time for him to hit the button and go, and he's done that.
He's done it.
I think a week ago, Mike, we were worried that he wasn't going to be an All-Star. Now I think he's almost a slam dunk.
No, I've completely flipped. He's cemented.
I
I will go to war with anyone online who wants to say he's not an All-Star.
I think they're getting 4.
Well,
And can I give one last thing on Darius that should not only cement his All-Star status, but I think this kind of shows maturity on the court. There's not a tangible one stat that says you're more mature, but how you perform in the clutch is a big indicator of
close and late.
Ready for some Darius numbers in the clutch after last night? He is a plus 56 plus minus in the clutch. That's the best in basketball.
Give the definition of the clutch, Mike.
Clutch is the final 5 minutes of a game when the game is within 5 points. So if there's 4 minutes left and you score to go up 6, that next possession is not considered clutch.
What was his number in that situation last year? Because I
I'll
thought
look
he
that
was
up.
terrible
I
in
have
that
this year
situation
pulled
last
up, but
year.
let me just go with these numbers.
Okay.
He's plus 56 in the clutch. That is best in the NBA.
Wow.
He has a league best 75% field goal percentage in the clutch. That is 20 points higher than any player with 20 or more field goal attempts.
Wow.
Significantly better. He's 13 of 17 in clutch situations. He's 3 of 7 from deep. He's 10 of 10 from the line. You ready for this? He has a 9-to-1 assist to turnover ratio in the clutch. And then here's maybe the best one.
This is incredible.
He's averaging 1.57 points per possession in pick and roll situations in the clutch. That's best in basketball. So he's great in pick and roll. He's also averaging 1.56 points per possession in isolation situations in the clutch. That's also best in basketball. If the season ended today, Darius Garland would be a sure-in, no doubts, no questions asked, whatever they call the stupid Clutch Player of the Year award. It has some sponsor. I don't know if it's Kia or whatever. He'd be the Clutch Player of the Year in the NBA right now.
I don't know how you'd argue with those numbers. He's first in almost all of them.
And I'll look up last year's numbers.
Yeah, last year I felt like I didn't trust him close and late last year. I thought he penetrated a lot and got shots blocked or just missed shots. Yeah, no, it's astonishing how he's flipped the switch, and I think he's having his best season. I think he's playing better than he has at any point in his career, and that's saying something because when he first came in, he had some nice years that led to that richest contract in franchise history.
You know how we a few weeks...
Darius Garland, sorry to cut you off, Bull.
Yeah.
So he is, this season, in 43 clutch minutes, he has a plus 56. Last season, in 104 minutes, his plus-minus, 0. Which, it goes negative, so it's not bad.
Yeah, right. He was a wash.
He's a wash. And his field goal percentage in the clutch last year, 29%. He's up to 75% this year.
That's astonishing.
It's crazy.
Not only that.
And real quick, last one. He's a 9-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio this year. He had 15 assists, 10 turnovers last year. So
it's stunning.
Not only should be an all-star, he should, unlike your boy Jerry Jeudy for All-Pro, he should be in the conversation for MVP.
Not go down that rabbit hole.
I know it's not going to happen.
No.
He should be in the conversation.
That's crazy.
He's more of an MVP than Jerry Jeudy is an All-Pro.
Wow.
That's not saying much.
So we're all in agreement before we move on to the next topic. Darius Garland, send him to Golden State, no questions asked.
I
correct?
think yes, and I think he will go.
And by the way, throw on top of this, he's also been improved on the defensive end of the floor. When he gets switched off and when they try to put him in the pick and roll or post him, he is a smaller dude, but he has shown some feistiness, some determination, and some effort on the defensive end of the court as well.
Mike, kudos on those numbers. Maybe I missed them during the broadcast against OKC Wednesday night, but those are numbers that typically ESPN's broadcast crew would throw out there. I didn't hear Doris. I didn't hear Jefferson. I didn't hear anybody mention those numbers, and that is a storyline that I think is largely untold. I'm surprised by those numbers, and I watch them every night.
He's been doing this for a year. Where you at? This is McNuggets. So
I know.
He's been doing this.
Kudos to you. Those are great numbers.
We're going to do a whole
picture.
Darius clutch breakdown. I want to do some.
I like the
some
40
videos on
burger
stuff.
on the bottom there.
It's a 40 burger. That's what he did.
That is
Put it on
nice.
Toronto's head. Speaking of what the Cavs have done this week, Stephen A. Smith had some interesting comments. We're going to play those for you guys in 1 second. But first, has Rocket Money ever helped you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It's happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I wasn't even aware of that I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them down. It was like having a personal assistant for my finances. Rocket Money is the best personal finance app on the market. It helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So First Take had not been discussing the Cavs all that much before the Wednesday game against OKC.
Shame on them.
And on Thursday, First Take had a Cavaliers segment, and I'm going to play you a clip from what Stephen A. Smith said on First Take. We'll react to that in 1 sec. Steve, let's hear it.
Could the Cavs truly win it all?
They could. They could. I'm watching this team. First of all, they're 11-0 against the Western Conference. They're undefeated in their 11 games against the Western Conference. So let's not ignore that, okay? I'm looking at them right now. Molly, right now, they're number one in offensive efficiency, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage shooting. Their net rating second only to OKC. Now, OKC came into this game as the top defensive team in the NBA, and they surrendered 129 points. And this was with Donovan Mitchell having his worst game of the season, 11 points, just 3 of 16 shooting from the field. Jared Allen, this kid, Evan Mobley, I mean, listen, this brother can play. And when you look at him, and Allen had 25 points, they combined for 46 points, 21 rebounds. I'm looking at OKC, and I'm saying, okay, Chet Holmgren is still not back. He's not out there. And you'll definitely need him to go up against a team like Cleveland. But, Wendy, I got to tell you, obviously, we don't want to summarily dismiss the reigning defending NBA champion Boston Celtics. We know what they can do. We know they know how to do it. We know they got 2 stars on their squad. And when Kristaps Porzingis being there, if he's healthy in the postseason, we know what that can mean for them. Plus, they all play their roles. We got that. They're champions. And we need to see Cleveland to believe it. But I got to tell you something. They got size in Cleveland. They got athleticism. They've got shooters. They defend. They're exceptionally well coached by Kenny Atkinson. I believe that Donovan Mitchell is a bona fide star in this game. He's big time. Darius Garland is balling. So when you look at all the pieces that they have and the way that they're playing together, and you've got guys like, 11 different guys, getting minutes for crying out loud. Nobody's averaging more than 32 minutes a game. And you're young to begin with. You're going into the playoffs with all of those abilities, plus fresh, youthful legs at various positions. I got to tell you, Wendy, I can't sleep on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm going as far as to say this, which is damn near sacrilegious. Okay. Right now, until I see further notice from the New York Knicks, all season long I was thinking about Knicks, Boston. Nah. If I'm going to be an objective viewer, I got to look at the Cleveland Cavaliers and say, yo, peeps, they got a chance to win the chip, to win it all.
So that was Stephen A. Smith raining some high praise on the Cavs. I want you guys to react to what Stephen A. said, and then are the Cavs ready for the expectations that come with being in that elite top tier category? But Jay, that's your guy, Stephen A. So what do you make of his comments?
Well, when numbers hit you over the head, you have to acknowledge them. And I think that's what he's doing in this case. And I like the fact that he said that, he was so high on the Knicks, he thought that the Knicks were the next NBA champions. And he loves the Knicks like I love the Cavs. And sometimes your love can alter the way you actually see things. But for him to admit that, you can't do anything but admit it. I know that it's a big issue for folks in Cleveland, whether or not the national media pays attention and gives credit to. I think that at the end of the day, that really doesn't mean a thing. What means most is what they can do on the court. And what they've done on the court warrants them being a favorite to contend for the NBA title. Are they going to win it? They're one of 4 or 5 teams that can. And I think he came to an obvious conclusion, begrudgingly, but he did it.
You know what's funny about this whole national media narrative thing? I was talking to Mike about this in the locker room. I told Donovan this. The national media doesn't exist anymore. There's no such thing as national media. So who is it that you're waiting?
I know.
Who is it that you're waiting on? I told Donovan, I said, it's funny because I said, well, you want First Take talking about you? And then the very next morning, First Take's talking about him. But Sports Illustrated, come on. ESPN doesn't. Of course, I'm coming from a writing background. ESPN magazine doesn't exist anymore. They don't even do very
it's
many.
the national sports talk guys. That's all the national media is.
Okay, so
but you know what? More than anything, I think it tends to be ESPN.
So you're going to feel better if Get Up and First Take are talking about you?
Yeah.
Really?
It means nothing.
I don't understand that.
It doesn't make any sense.
I used to say the same thing when I worked there, and I would hear criticism from every city in the United States on their various team. Why aren't you talking about the Red Wings? Like, unfortunately, you're going for the thing that moves the needle the most.
LeBron, the Cowboys, the Lakers.
The coastal cities where the population centers are.
That's why we get paid the big bucks, because people care what you think. People like to hear your opinion, and they want to see their team talked about on national TV, right? Like, that's the reason they're fans. So I get why fans are like, listen, especially when they hype up teams that are like from the coast that are like 500. You're like, this is a 500 New York team or a little over 500 LA team. This team is 30-4. I can see why fans want to see their team on TV. Doesn't matter to the players, not really. I think there's a little dig at, they make little sly comments about it. Now, I think they care more about whether or not some guy gets in from a big market team over a team that's 30-4 for All-Stars. I think that's a big thing for them. But, it's just fans. Fans like to see their people on TV.
No offense to Stephen A. I don't really care about anything he said there. It's meaningless to me. Mike, I would have honestly rather you play the clips from Brian Windhorst, who I thought had better insight and much more interesting things to say. Brian actually watches the Cavs all the time.
Windhorst is not anti-Cavs, though. That's the difference.
I know that, but again, Stephen A. Smith is a giant in this business. I get it, but I don't know why anybody in Cleveland would care what he says.
Well, it's because of the first part of your sentence. Because he's a giant in this business. It's validation when the top. When the top voices in the game are talking about you, it validates you.
I guess. I don't think he said anything that was earth-shattering or that we didn't know.
We've known everything he said. Yeah. We've known all of that all season
Brian
long.
said some interesting things there, not there, but like Brian talked about it being the most exciting game he's seen, the best basketball game he's seen in years. He talked about how one of the things Brian Windhorst said that to me that was really interesting is the fact that that every player on the Cavs is a factor. There's nobody that plays for the Cavs that is like a nothing out there. And 9 out of 10 players can handle the ball, which is an advantage they have over every other team.
Here's the reason why Stephen A. Smith saying something is relevant. Because as a local market team, as a team that we live in the minutia of Ohio, Cleveland, right? You want a national perspective of a person who comes from New York, who's in a big market, who has the perspective of the big market team. So we want to see if our style of basketball and what we've been able to do has permeated or reached the masses. Like, you just want to be like, hey, we good, right? Hey, Knicks, y'all could get beat. Like, that's what we want to do. Hey, we got 32 wins. And so you want to see what they're going to say about it. Now, listen, like you said, reluctantly, you can't hate. The Cavs is the best team in the league right now. And so I want my 4,500. Like, now with the Cavs, I want my 70. I'm trying to get that 70.
You're not getting the 4,500.
Now, I'm not getting 4,500.
I don't think you're getting 4,500 over 5 years.
Nuh-uh. That way, we're gonna get 4,500.
Yeah.
We'll move the goal. I want 70 on this season.
You're going to settle for 70? You don't want to break the record?
Hey, listen, you don't put yourself in that situation. That's a little tough.
That is tough.
70. How many? What's the pace that they're on right now?
All right, so I actually
70
looked this
plus.
up this morning.
So are
The Cavs
Thunder.
right now are 32-4, right?
Right.
The Warriors, when they won 73 games that season, they got to 55-5. So the Cavs, to match where they were at pace-wise,
Have to go 23 and 1.
23-1 over the next 24 games, which I'm not putting it past them.
I mean,
and you know
Seen
what?
Some incredible
That's
basketball.
wild.
Their minutes management has been incredible.
Wow.
And I think the big difference between this Cavs team and the Warriors team was their minute management was not.
I mean,
They were running on that treadmill at full speed the entire season to
the
break that
Cavs
record.
have gone 16-1 in their last 17 games. So why couldn't they go? What do they have to go? 22-1?
23 and 1.
23-1.
So.
They certainly could. I'm not putting it past them.
I
But
mean,
that is the pace they have to maintain.
55-4 is
55-5.
55-5 is.
I've always said this. I'll maintain it. There's no trophy for that.
Lord,
There's no trophy for it.
that's tough.
So with what Stephen A. Smith said, what was the Peter Parker quote? With great power comes great responsibility.
Correct.
Yeah.
With great expectations, now comes the responsibility of living up to them.
Right.
The Cavs this season have been the hunter. With the national attention they're getting, with the 32-4 record, they might be becoming the hunted. Do you have any indication, do you guys get any feeling that they're not ready for the pressure and that role as the hunted as opposed to the hunter?
I don't think it's the pressure. I think it's, you sort of saw it last night with Toronto. They have now reached the point where you are going to get everybody's best shot.
Yep.
And that's what you have to prepare for. It's not the pressure of, oh my goodness, we have to deliver. It's Toronto and they suck, but this is their playoff game tonight because they're coming in here and they want to be the team that ends the streak. So that, I think, is a mental adjustment that they have to get used to. And that was one of the things that I think, going back to the old iteration of this, that was one of the things that I think Kevin and Kyrie had to adjust to playing with LeBron. When Kevin was in Minnesota, you didn't get everybody's best shot.
No.
When Kyrie was in Cleveland before LeBron came back, they were terrible. But now all of a sudden, now everybody's circling you on their calendar, and it's a mental thing that you gotta figure that out. And so that's what I think we're in that transition now, because certainly that wasn't the case when the season started. That wasn't even the case. I keep going back to Golden State. Golden State at home is when I said I stamped these guys as this is real, this is legitimate, hold on tight because this thing's going somewhere. But not even then, I don't think were you getting everybody's. Now, after what you did to OKC, and now that Stephen A. has crowned you or whatever, now you are going to start getting everybody's best shot. And you saw that with Toronto, and you're going to continue to see that when Indiana comes in, and then when you go to these road games against some of these bad teams when you're on their court. So that's the mental adjustment that you have to click of, hey, it's a Tuesday in March, and we're in Detroit. But, buddy, they're coming. They are gunning for us.
2 losses to Atlanta. Atlanta is a tough matchup for the Cavs.
Yeah.
I think they do some things that really give the Cavs problems. But I think it was evident even with Atlanta. When you go to Chicago, when you go to Detroit, those are real dangerous games because you're right. Kudos to Toronto. They played that last night like it was a playoff game.
They played their butts off.
They did. And they gave the Cavs their best shot.
They were up 11 late third.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's when
But
it
you
looked
know
like,
what? They're
oh gosh,
not that
this is going to
dangerous
happen.
because the Cavs have, I believe, unless Miami under 500?
I think right around.
Miami this year, according to the
They're right
ESPN
around
standings, Miami is 2 games above 500.
So
19
the
and
Cavs
17.
have not lost a game to a team under 500 the whole season.
That is correct.
Yep.
So, the Cavs, they're not, a typical excellent team in recent years in the NBA. They take off nights with veteran players. Cavs don't take off any nights. They play hard every night. Yeah. And to the point of the minutes, I was looking at this yesterday. Every key guy on the Cavs, I'm not talking about Ty Jerome because he didn't play last year, but of the core of the Cavs, every player except one is playing 2.5 to 7 less minutes per game this year.
That's huge.
The only player not in that group is Evan Mobley, who's playing the exact same minutes as last year.
And they're scoring more. They're playing better defense.
They're scoring at an absurd pace.
It really is absurd.
I mean, what are they averaging now, Mike? 124, 123?
For the season, they're averaging 122.9 points per game.
So 123 a game.
Which is, it's tied with Memphis for the highest mark in basketball.
And when these guys get out there, look, they competing for minutes. So I don't expect to see no letdown because if you Karis LeVert, you Max Strus, you Sam Merrill, you Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, you know that next dude is coming off the bench ready to go. When you playing on good teams like that, you got to compete for minutes. They're going to roll with the hot hand. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to worry about, we're going to take it. Ain't nothing to take off. Like, unless you want your spot in the rotation going, like you better go out there and run what we don't really run and get it how we get it.
That's a good point. When you don't want to be the guy that comes in a big spot and doesn't play well.
Right.
Because you probably can see your minutes go down if you're in that situation. It's just like, it's incredible that every button Kenny Atkinson has pushed has been the right button.
I mean, they've had great coaching, great improvement. They're two youngest guys in Mobley and Garland have taken huge step forwards this year.
Great health.
The bench is fantastic. They've had the great health. Knock on everything.
You know, Mikey, the question was, can they handle the pressure of being the hunted?
Correct.
So far, they have.
Yeah.
So far, they've handled that pressure.
Absolutely.
I was a little concerned about Oklahoma City just because I thought that their defense was going to hold us well below our average. We exceeded our average.
Yeah, no.
So I just think
I don't think anybody can stop them on defense. Nobody.
It's going to be really difficult. I think the only team that can beat the Cavs is the Cavs when they have a bad night shooting or a lot of turnovers.
Yep. Let me ask you this. Do you think them shooting this well is a smokescreen? I mean, it's a large sample size, but they
a mirage?
Like the team 3-point shooking.
Yeah.
Some of these
You're
guys.
asking if they can sustain.
Are they that good? Are they that good?
Guys like Karis LeVert, even Evan Mobley, these guys are shooting almost 40%.
But we're approaching the halfway point of the season.
Is that sustainable?
With Darius, Donovan, yes. With Okoro, I don't know. But because the game slows down in the playoffs, because you're asking about the playoffs, basically. Yes. The game slows down. A lot of these games turn into a little bit more of a half-court grind. Shots aren't quite as easy to find. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying if they're playing at a 9, it's a 6.5, 7 in the playoffs. So it just gets a little bit harder. There's more pressure on those shots. We saw it with Okoro last year where he had a great year shooting the ball during the regular season, then he vanished in the playoffs. So with your role players, you're always concerned with them. But with the top guys, I think it's real. And I like the leadership on, like, Max Strus has been to the finals. Tristan's won a championship. George Niang's played in 1 million playoff games.
Well, now all these guys the last 2 years have gotten playoff experience.
Yeah, but every notch.
Sure,
It's a little bit more. So they haven't been to a conference final yet.
Right.
Mobley, Jarrett, Darius.
Besides Strus.
Donovan hasn't either.
No.
So every level, it gets cranked up another notch. So and that's why, like, normally you got to get there once, figure it out,
right?
And they've done that incrementally. They've gone another step every year. That's what made the Warriors in 2015 so wild, was they just came out of nowhere and then won the whole thing. Yep. And that's it
usually is a progression.
It's unusual. It's usually more of a progression. But the Cavs have taken steps. So how much different is it? I mean, that series they had with Boston last year was a pretty good series. They had a ton of injuries. But what's the difference in that and a conference final? A little bit, probably not. What's the difference in that and an NBA Finals?
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, to your point, every possession is magnified.
Yes.
Even more so, the further you go, and I couldn't agree more with your point that everything slows down. It's not uncommon to see games in the 90s in the NBA Finals because everything is so deliberate. Everything is magnified. Defense becomes more of a priority, and matchups become a bigger priority.
And I remember talking to Griff about this after they won the championship. And the NBA Finals is just in a war of attrition because you've played so many games, going back to the preseason, the entire regular season. There's so many rounds in the playoffs. And I think that was so big for when the Cavs were making those finals runs. They swept everybody, so they got a week off. Mm-hmm. That's huge. It's huge to get that time off and get these guys off their feet. But the finals, and it goes back to the conversation, we were talking to Kenny about this after the game. Can you play 10 guys in the postseason? He said, yeah, he's going to try. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying I think it's going to be hard to do that because you want to roll with your best guys. And you don't want your 10th guy on the floor. You want your 5th guy on the floor.
You also want your best guys fresh at the end.
Right. But and that's where, like, sometimes you have multiple days off between finals games. You at least have one day off. Sometimes you have multiple days off.
Sure.
So you can run their minutes a little bit higher. But it is an attrition game. And guys are, I mean, LeBron will tell you, Kevin Love will tell you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is win a championship. It's until you go through it and experience it, you can't describe how physically and emotionally exhaustive and draining it is to win that second round, win that third round, get to the finals. Mike Miller used to say all the time, if you lose a game in the NBA Finals, you feel like you're never going to win another game. The series is over, and that's it. Yeah. And if you win one game, even for the players, they feel like that's it, it's devastating. And if you win a finals game, you think, like, no one will ever beat us. The parade is tomorrow. That's just the emotional swing that even these guys experience.
Yeah. By the way, to your point of you'd rather the 5th guy, not the 10th guy, on the Cavs, guys 5 through 10, I don't know that there's much of a talent difference. Or
I think it's a skill set difference, and that's where.
But Dean Wade versus.
Well, tools. They can do. Each guy can do
right.
a different thing. Which what a luxury to have.
But what I'm saying is, when you look at, right now Dean Wade's the 5th starter. Between Dean Wade and LeVert and all the other guys that play key minutes off the bench, is there much of a difference how good those 6 guys are?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Because Kenny talked about this the other night. If you go too big, I love 2 bigs and Dean at the 3. I think that is a game changer for them. We've talked about it all year. You can talk about their 4 top players, and they deserve all the flowers that they're getting. But Dean Wade at the 3 is the difference because of the length that he provides and the size that they don't have otherwise at that spot. That is huge to me. But Kenny was talking the other night. We can go 2 bigs, we can go 1 big, we can put Dean at the 5. So if you're going to play Dean at the 3, Karis LeVert may not fit. But if you're going to put Dean at the 5, now you need Karis as a shooter. So it's not necessarily the talent difference between guy 10 and 6. It's what can guy 9 do that guy 6 doesn't bring.
And in the playoffs, depending on who you're playing and what you want to get accomplished, you pick your lineup accordingly.
And we talked about, I was talking to somebody about this the other night after the game. Channing Frye absolutely cooked Toronto in the playoffs. He couldn't get on the floor against Golden State. Right. So you may have instances like that where Isaac Okoro can help you because of what he brings defensively one series, and the next series he doesn't get off the bench because he's a liability offensively.
Hey, guys, we have some breaking news I have to interrupt with, but hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We just got word from Ian Rappaport, who tweeted out that Deshaun Watson has ruptured his Achilles again. Further testing showed, and he had another surgery yesterday to repair it. Less than 3 months after the original tear, it happened again. Watson faces a longer road back and now could miss all of 2025. So Deshaun Watson retore his Achilles, out for an undisclosed amount of time.
Out for the year, Mike.
He's out for his career.
I think Jason, I think you're right.
He's done. I mean, this isn't a surprise.
He's done. Probably.
I'm surprised that he tore it again.
No, I'm not.
Why?
It was out days
We
ago.
knew there was a setback.
No, it was whispers.
There were rumblings.
Yeah, I told Mike Tuesday.
We've had this camp made since Tuesday.
I told Mike Tuesday, be ready. I think he tore it again.
Here's what I don't understand.
Why didn't they just say that when the news came out that there was a setback?
Because I think he had to see. He went to North Carolina. I think
get
it was
an
North
MRI.
Carolina.
It's torn.
No, he was seeing a doctor. What's today? Friday. When was he seeing the doctor? Wednesday? Tuesday? Wednesday, he went and saw the doctor.
Okay.
So
why would you see a doctor right away?
What do you mean?
Any doctor would know if it's torn, most likely, even without any.
Yeah, there's indications that there's a tear, but an MRI confirms it.
Yeah, right.
I think they knew they were waiting They were waiting on the official.
Here's the thing, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know why he's not wearing a boot 3 months after surgery.
You refer to the stupid Instagram videos, right?
Yeah, he wasn't wearing a boot.
That doesn't mean we're not with him 24 hours a day. Who knows when he's wearing it?
I guess it's different.
No, but if you have pictures of him not wearing a boot, he's not wearing it 24 hours a day.
Right.
I never took off my boot in the first 4 months, except when I was in bed.
Yeah, I've never torn it, so I don't know what
I'm not a
protocol
professional athlete, so I guess it's different. But
no,
I just assumed everybody had to wear a boot, or you're supposed to wear a boot.
So implications of this, I agree with you, Jay. On first glance, it looks like
he's done.
Certainly not playing this coming next
chance.
season.
No
but
chance.
I think that kind of cooks his career. I don't know where he gets another shot.
I mean, one Achilles tear puts your career in grave danger.
You guys had a salary cap guy on, I think, earlier
Jack
this week.
Duffin yesterday.
I didn't get to see it,
Yeah.
but is there any indication that we know there's insurance relief on the
Yeah.
salary? Is there any? You don't get salary cap relief,
No.
do you? I
No.
didn't think so.
All that money
Somebody-
you push forward,
I-
you still have to count for.
I
That's what I
think
thought.
there's a tiny bit of salary cap
Someone
relief.
tried telling me that there's a formula that there could be some salary cap
but it's
relief.
minimal.
But the relief would be on, I think, would be on future dollars owed. It's not the back money that they push forward.
right.
It's like he still has to count for $46 million in actual dollars against the cap next year.
And by the
so
way-
you might get relief on that,
Yeah.
and then the money, the actual dollars, not the money pushed forward, not the imaginary cap money, but the money actually owed to him that you have to write in a check. You might be able to get relief. I assume you would get relief on that.
Now, in the end, the cap guy yesterday did make it clear that as long as Jimmy's willing to spend with no limits, which he has at this point, then the cap is to some degree not real. There'll never be a comeuppance if he's always willing to spend.
Well, then just pay everybody $100 million contract then, if it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Just
see,
give
I
everybody
just-
100.
I
Well,
just
no,
think
no, no,
that's-
that's not what I'm saying. First of all, most teams are not willing to spend like
Right.
Jimmy
I hear
is.
what you're saying. I hear.
But a lot of
and-
teams, though, Bull, that are.
Yes, but you can go a certain amount over the cap. Like I'm not saying it's a zero factor, but he made I thought it was interesting. Like he said, the Browns could still spend in actual cash even without Watson's money, the 8th most money in the league.
Because you convert all the money to a roster bonus, you pay it up front.
Right, there's always tricks. As long as Jimmy's willing to spend endlessly,
That's the one thing he'll do.
It's really
That's the
not
one thing he'll
going
do.
to ever be an overwhelming factor. It's not a non-factor,
Right.
but not overwhelming. But in terms of Deshaun, I spoke to my physical therapist who's now become a friend. I worked with him when I tore my Achilles. And he was telling me that every time you tear your Achilles, it changes, obviously not a tiny amount, but it changes the length of your Achilles tendon.
Right.
And so having a second surgery is going to once again, very so slightly, change the length of your Achilles tendon.
And then
but even though
probably
it's a tiny
increase
amount,
the chance
it's
that you tear it again.
Yes, and
there's more stress on
it's
it.
a major. Just the fact that your Achilles tendon length is different, even by a millimeter or whatever it is. I don't know, maybe less than that. It's a factor in your athletic ability and all of that. So between the 2 Achilles tears and the shoulder injury, yes, his career is probably over. There's obviously no chance he's going to play for the team this year. But
In terms of cap relief, according to Over the Cap, if Watson does not play in 2025, the Browns can cash in on $44.3 million on an insurance policy they took out on Watson. So that would be the cap relief they get. Deshaun still gets
that's
all his
not
money.
cap relief.
No, wait a minute. That's just their salary relief.
Salary.
Yeah, it's
salary.
not cap relief.
They don't
Yes,
get
yes,
that
yes.
cap relief.
No.
Yeah.
But they get that money back, yes.
Yeah, no,
But we don't care about that. Who
Yeah, they
cares?
don't. I mean,
No,
I
I'm
guess
just
at
saying,
some point
but-
it's $43 million. You're
Yeah.
you're going to bend over to pick it up.
But that's
But,
No, but-
it's in terms
That
of
question's been
helping
circular. I just
their
wanted to-
salary cap
Yes.
situation.
Yeah, but make that clear, Mike, because you just said it was salary cap relief. It's
no,
not.
yeah,
salary
we
cap.
fixed it.
he cashes in on
Yeah.
the $44.3 million
It helps
insurance policy.
Haslam because he's not on the hook for it.
Right, he
But it
gets
does
the-
not
yeah.
come off of their salary cap number.
Well, this just goes to show you. I mean, first of all, it sucks. I'm walking around in a boot myself. I partially tore my Achilles heel. I just know how tough it is to come back from injuries. I never considered him going to be even able to be playing this year anyway. And given when he tore it and how he tore it, and given the fact that what it looks like when you come back from an Achilles heel tendon tear, I mean, it's very stiff. You don't have the same amount of range of motion in it. You're kind of scared to explode and do certain things like that and run and get off to a good start, especially when you talk about a running quarterback that uses his legs. Now he's torn it again. There is no way. I'm gonna just let you know that right now. Like, that is from a guy who's had it. He's not playing this year. He might not be playing ever no more. Like, you gotta think about it. I believe he has 2 ACL surgeries.
And the shoulder.
2
And the
ACLs and the shoulder and 2 Achilles heels. So this is just a note to the Cleveland Browns. Hey, man, you find out what you're going to do at quarterback because you still need one.
I think this is. I don't mean to sound cruel or harsh or whatever. I mean, he's not dying. It's an Achilles tear. This is honestly a great thing for the Browns and it's a great thing for the fans. I think it's a sigh of relief for fans that that were struggling with having to root for a team with Deshaun Watson on it.
I can't go that far. I'm never going to say that's a good for the fans. Somebody got hurt. Like the Cleveland Browns could have just said they're not going to play him. I'm not going to go that far and say it's good for the fans. Somebody got hurt.
I'm just that's fine, G. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of fans that are relieved that they know for sure. Whether they suspect it or not, you now know for sure he is not in the mix anymore.
It changes the composition of the quarterback room, and it takes him out of the mix. And I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you're trying to say is, for the fans that weren't happy that he was going to be part of the equation at quarterback next year,
that's gone now.
And it might not be just because of the baggage that he had. It might just be because I've seen what he brings to the team on the field, and it's not what we need. So if they're pleased that he's removed from that conversation for whatever reason, and in this case it was an injury, I kind of get what you're saying. I also, having gone through devastating injuries that take 12 to 15 months to recover from, I can speak from that end of it. There's nothing positive or good about that.
Well, I mean, then he should have been wearing his boot. I don't know.
Well, I don't know that that's why he tore it, but Bull, I did think the same thing when I saw the video. I thought, geez, where's the boot? And I don't know how he tore it. I don't know if it was because he didn't have the boot on.
We also don't know if that video was recorded.
We don't know. We don't know. That's the thing with social media. It could have been a year-old clip. We're
not his medical team. We don't know what program he was on. We don't even know if he's supposed to be wearing a boot, a cast, whatever the case may be.
We don't.
At the end of the day,
but it does seem logical that he would be in a boot. I know a lot of people that have gone through the tear, and it's not a 6-week boot situation. You're in that for 4 months, and you just got to do what the doctor tells you to do if you want to make it all the way back.
If we're being realistic.
Real quick, sorry to cut you off, but Schefter says at minimum 7-month recovery time for Deshaun. So that puts him at first back in middle of summer. Yeah,
Stop.
I don't know where he gets that number.
Where's you getting that from?
Well, he may have some, to me, a re-tear, and I'm not an expert, and maybe he's talked to experts, so I don't know, but I know with the ACL, after I tore it the second time, there was a problem with the surgery, and 3 weeks later, I had to replace it again. Oh, the clock resets.
Of course.
Because I asked my doctor, I said, does that mean I'm 9 to 12 months from today? Oh, of course it does. We're going to go back in and put a new ACL in your leg. Yes, you're hitting the reset button.
Right.
7 months for an Achilles. Remember when Aaron Rodgers tore his in the first snap or second snap of the preseason? Yeah. There was some talk by him, scoffed at by every expert, that he was going to try to make it back during the season, which would have been like a 5-month calendar.
Which, of course, didn't happen.
It didn't happen. But, I mean, now that does change the conversation. If Adam Schefter is right, and if you can recover from this in 7 months, and I've never heard that, but if you can, that does line up with the start of training camp.
I don't
lost his mind.
Realistically, this has no bearing on the Browns' plans because they were already nothing changed. They were already moving forward with.
And why would the Browns want to push that calendar? Because they want an insurance company to pay the $43 million, not them.
And there's no example. What's the comp for somebody tearing?
I've never heard of one.
Twice in a 3-month stretch.
I'm with Jason. This had no. It's unfortunate, but this had no bearing on what they were going to do at the quarterback position, the way they were evaluating talent, and what they were going to do with the room. The room is going to get a major overhaul, and Deshaun Watson is not in their plans. The only reason he's in the plans is because they got to figure out about this money.
It's a benefit to them from the point that now, I would imagine you can put him on the PUP list and he won't count against your 53.
That's right.
Now you can bring in 3 quarterbacks.
So
because if he was on the roster and you were paying him,
you'd be wasting a roster spot. And now you don't have to waste that roster
spot. You restructure, you kick more money down the road. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
But I thought you were going to have to carry him on the 53. Now maybe, and there's all kinds of different designations. Maybe there's a designation you can give him, IR, whatever, where he's not going to count against your 53.
Have you guys ever seen a transaction in sports history that, Bull, you and I know we agree this is the worst transaction in sports history, but the hits just keep coming.
Yeah.
It's just one.
It's unbelievable.
After another.
It's unbelievable.
It's almost like, and some people believe in this, some people don't. But the word that comes to mind is karma.
I told Adam that on the phone the other day. I said normally I'm not a big karma guy, but
how do you? I mean, in this particular instance,
in its injuries, who tears their Achilles twice? Who does that? Who's ever heard of that? And the shoulder. No quarterbacks had that injury.
There was no comp for the quarterback for the shoulder
no
injury. No
comp for that, and as far as I can think of, no comp for a guy tearing his Achilles twice.
I can't remember it either.
I mean, maybe it's happened.
It's just like the hits keep coming and come, and at some point, play stupid game, win stupid prize.
You gotta now you can fully move on, even if you somehow thought
the Browns
they wouldn't
paid
anyway.
$12 million per start for Deshaun Watson. 19 starts, $230 million. They paid $12 million
per bad start.
Oh, he had a couple decent ones in there.
He had a good half against Baltimore. We'll always have that.
Yeah.
We'll always have that.
Hanging in the Louvre, the second half against Baltimore.
Just a quick aside from all of this, because I was on a flight recently, and Jameis Winston was on the flight.
Oh.
And I couldn't help but wonder, is he leaving Cleveland right now for the last time? Do you bring him back?
No.
I don't think that.
No.
Is it a hard no across the board? Because I'm going to make a suggestion.
I don't think it ended well.
Here's why.
Here's
why.
Was he bitter that they?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I tend to believe that.
Jason, here's why I think it's definitely over. You correct me if I'm wrong. I think Kevin Stefanski, when I saw Kevin Stefanski in his press conference the other day, that was different than any other press conference I've seen him
in what way?
He basically said, and you got to read between the lines a little because he's never going to flat out say it. But for the first time, he said, "This is my team. We're doing things my way."
Yeah.
And for the people who want him fired, and I did the big flip flop. We talked about it last week. I get it. You don't want to hear this stuff, or if you do, then okay, now it's on him, and it is. If he has if they're terrible next year, he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
He is not. His hand being forced is not happening this year.
Yeah.
That's what I
Nor
believe.
should it.
That's what I heard. It shouldn't be.
Jay, do you agree with that? Because I agree with what
he doesn't
Bull
want
say.
Jameis Winston.
100%.
Yeah.
I think Jameis drives them crazy because of the interceptions. I think he drives Kevin crazy. I think he drives everybody.
Here's where I was going with all of that. What I was like, okay, so I need 3 better names than Jameis Winston. Okay? That's what I need.
Yeah.
And I don't know who they are. I don't know where they're coming from. If the organization can come up with 3 better names than Jameis Winston, okay. What I saw with Jameis, what we all saw with our own eyes, was record-setting performances on offense. What we also saw was colossal bad decision-making that has been part of his DNA throughout his career. What I wondered, because, Bull, I heard the same thing that you heard. I heard a guy who basically was passive as the head coach of an organization who's been taking bullets for decisions that he didn't make, finally decide to stand up and say, enough. If I'm going down my way. And I'm going to pick my offensive coordinator, which I think he's going to do.
Yep.
And I'm going to pick my quarterback. And we're going to run my offense.
Yep.
And we're going to do it my way. And if we fail, run my ass out of town. But I'm going to be fired on my merits, not your bad decisions.
That's it.
So because of that, I just couldn't help but wonder, what if he was to recommit with Jameis, bring him back and say, we're going to let you compete, and just put the guy through Kevin Stefanski Quarterback Lab 101, 202, get to graduate level.
Right.
Break down why he's throwing interceptions. Guys, physically, the tools, he's got the arm to make every throw.
But like you said, Jay, he wants his guys, and Jameis is not one of his
Well,
guys.
I didn't know that he wasn't. I didn't know. And if he wasn't, then forget all of that.
Kirk Cousins, Shedeur Sanders, and somebody else.
I want to hear 3 names that are better.
Kirk Cousins, Shedeur Sanders, and
Shedeur Sanders, you're going to say is better.
I don't know. Hey, if we sit here talking this quarterback stuff,
yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if he want to get up here and punt on quarterbacks and draft tackles, he's going to get fired again. He's going to get fired next year. Like this thought process where
you're talking about Andrew Berry.
No, all of them. I don't have my guy. This ain't my guy. Baker wasn't your guy. Deshaun wasn't your guy.
What if his guy isn't there though?
Hey, he better figure out one of these retreads. Better be one of his guys because he gonna have to coach somebody up. Jay.
Well, I think Cousins is one.
Somebody he gonna have to do something. He got to coach somebody up.
I agree with you. Here's the spot that they're in. They got the second pick. If you don't love these quarterbacks, what do you do? Maybe they do. Maybe they love one of these quarterbacks. Maybe they do.
So Jay just asked, if you don't like Jameis Winston, right? You find me somebody
That's
new.
okay. Just give me 3 names that are better.
And so if he don't like no quarterbacks in the draft, so what are we doing?
But
We ain't get nobody?
No, I think there's a difference in 0-17 and 17-0. Like you can get the point I was trying to make on Monday was if you get a stopgap guy, okay, great. You got a stopgap guy, you won 8 or 9 games, and you save your job and everything. Now what?
Well,
Now
Minnesota's
what's
in
your
that
plan?
spot. They won 15.
But they got J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, right. And
then Sam Darnold fell out of the sky into their lap.
exactly.
So now they're in a great spot.
And look at Atlanta, similar deal. They had Cousins as a bridge to get to
get Penix.
a guy who.
And it didn't work with Cousins because he played terrible.
He did play terrible.
Well, it didn't
Coming
work
off an
the way they-
Achilles.
Terrible
Yeah.
contract.
They'd hoped it would, but
Yeah.
you talk about an Achilles and losing athleticism and not being able to move.
Right.
He's in that situation like Aaron Rodgers is.
I agree with you. They got to figure out something. They got to
do
find.
something.
They got to find something. And I'm sure that they have a plan. And maybe it is take
Are
one of
you-
those guys that. I think that they're formulating it.
They will draft a quarterback. It may not be a 2,
Right.
but they will draft
I
a
just,
quarterback.
I just don't want him to sit here holding the bag with out of this draft and out of this free agency, and you get up and you look, you don't have a veteran, you didn't draft anybody as a quarterback.
They will.
And you're sitting here like, well,
They've
not
got to
gonna-
draft a
They got-
quarterback.
They will draft,
they will
a
draft a
quarterback
quarterback.
at some point.
They will
I don't know
draft
when
a
it'll be.
quarterback.
They will bring in a different veteran
Yeah.
to either, depending on when they draft a quarterback, to compete
Now-
or to be a bridge quarterback.
In terms of Cousins, the only thing I can tell you is going back to the offseason when they acquired Deshaun, Baker thought they wanted Kirk Cousins. Baker had convinced himself they were going after Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Too bad they didn't get Cousins.
because of the connection.
But because of the obvious connection. And the Browns were never interested in doing that. Now, times in turn
when you
changed.
say Browns, do you mean Stefanski or do you mean
I mean the organization.
Haslam?
The organization was never looking at Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
That was not what they were going to do.
Right.
So he's older now. He's cheaper than he would have been then.
Sure.
But
Even more so now.
Everyone thinks like the Cousins thing is a foregone conclusion. I'm not entirely
Atlanta made a
convinced that
funny
it is.
statement. Atlanta came out and said, we're ready to go into 25 with Cousins as our backup. That's a smokescreen.
Well, nobody's going to trade for that contract. If you're
Which
trying
is
to
why-
create
right.
leverage.
So what somebody like Cleveland is waiting to happen, they're waiting for Cousins to be released, so Atlanta has to pay him.
Right.
And Cleveland gets him on the cheap.
Right.
Atlanta follows that with their own volley, saying, we're good going into 25 with
Now, maybe the Browns look around and say there's nobody better. Okay, we'll take Kirk. I'm just telling you, when he was playing better earlier in his career, they weren't really focused on him.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
Do you
Kirk
guys
Cousins-
think whoever they bring in as offensive coordinator, and I'll pivot from that to this, has any impact on where they go with quarterback? And we'll talk about the candidates in a sec, but
No.
is that higher indicative of where they may go
I
quarterback?
think this OC list reemphasizes Adam's point of this is Kevin
They're
saying.
Stefanski guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, let me read the
100%.
list then. Let's pivot to that. But
Yeah.
the Browns have officially brought in, or at least have requested, an interview process with 5 offensive coordinator candidates. Steve, you can take the list here. Tommy Reese, who is currently with the Cleveland Browns. Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator in New Orleans. Kevin Koger, the tight ends coach in Atlanta. Darrell Bevels, the quarterback coach in Miami. Charles London, the quarterback coach in Seattle. These to you, Bull, I'll start with you. These indicate that it is Stefanski's offense, and whoever they hire is just going to be a complement to that system based on the 5 candidates we know about so far.
I mean, Darrell Bevel is a veteran guy in this league, so I think he's a
He
guy.
was Minnesota's coordinator when Kevin was there.
Yeah, he fits. He fits that mold. Certainly, Kubiak. Obviously, he played, or Stefanski coached under Kubiak's dad, so that's certainly a connection there. And he's an up and coming young guy. At this list, the guy I like the most. So yeah, there's a lot of connections, and Tommy Reese obviously last year coached under him. I don't know his connection to the other guys.
Charles London and Koger, I
Yeah.
am not sure either, to be honest with you.
Let's see. I got Koger played at Michigan, by the way. He was the Falcons tight end coach this past year. Before that, he was a tight end coach with the Chargers, and he was with the Packers before that. So there doesn't seem to be a connection. He is from Toledo.
Yeah, these boys about to be getting Kool-Aid and water. They about to run this Kevin Stefanski playbook. They ain't gonna touch no plays. They ain't gonna have nah. These is all These are hires that are looking to move up the ranks. They're going to bring them in and say, listen, you're going to coach the quarterbacks up. We're going to get you together. You're going to have some little things you're going to do here. But in terms of this offense is me.
Right.
This
None of these guys are going to call plays. So
at
that's
all.
why that's another reason why.
No plays.
Most likely. Although, again, Darrell Bevel's been in the league a long time. He's not looking to move up the ranks. I mean, he's a veteran.
Trying to give you that Alex Van Pelt. That's my guy.
Yeah.
I know I'm comfortable.
I mean, Koger, London, and Reese are all really young guys. So is Kubiak, but, I mean, he's highly thought of around the league.
I believe London had a tie to Vrabel. I believe. I'm not
What is it,
positive.
Charles London?
Yeah, I think.
We have his bio. We'll pull it up for you.
Okay.
Kubiak, I mean,
I think Kubiak, for me, Kubiak probably has the greatest tie to Stefanski, doesn't he?
he models the entire offense after his dad.
100%.
Like
And,
it's the Gary Kubiak
like,
offense that Kevin runs.
It just seems to me that when I heard he was on, I expected he would be on the list. When I heard that he was, I said, he's our next offensive coordinator. I'm going to be stunned if this goes in any other direction.
I
than
wouldn't
that.
sleep on Tommy Reese.
Really?
Yes. I said they're going to lose him. If they don't promote him, they're going to lose him.
Okay.
Because Vrabel will, and Reese may prefer to leave because I think he'll go with Vrabel and he'll call plays because Vrabel's not going to call plays. So Reese can be a play caller.
And he's going to have a new quarterback.
Now, do you think it's a done deal that Stefanski is going to reclaim the play calling?
I don't think it's a done deal.
Because I haven't heard that.
It depends who they hire, but I think it's a good chance.
I tend to, just my opinion, I think he's calling plays next year.
I think this is philosophically, this is an important move and moment for the Browns because I've always been fascinated at organizations who try to shove in their guy in a very critical position and just tell the head coach that this is who you're going to work with.
Right, yeah.
In my experience around the league and in covering teams and organizations, to me it always feels like the ones that work best are the ones where there's an automatic philosophical alignment.
Yeah.
And when they forced in the OC last year, I just thought, wow, this is not what we do. This is not what Stefanski is. No one expected it was going to work.
It's catering to the $230 million quarterback. It's trying to do everything you can to give him every opportunity to be successful. I totally understand why they did it, but I think all summer we said, Ken Dorsey ain't it. Like, that is not a great hire. I think we were all in agreement on that, but you understood why they did it.
Let me ask you this, though. On paper, did you think that Deshaun Watson was the kind of quarterback that was going to work well with Kevin Stefanski and in his system?
Going into it, yes.
Because I didn't.
I did.
I just thought, that's odd. I don't think that's the quarterback that he would design in the lab to run what he runs.
Well, and maybe it's because I was too close to the trees, but I wrote the story on how they landed him, and I'm the one that wrote that Kevin sat there with an iPad with Deshaun and went over plays of.
No, I remember you said that.
This is what we like to do. This is what we've seen you do. This is how we can use you. And Deshaun said, what can I do better? Coach me right now. What do you think I can do better? And the first thing Kevin pointed to was play action.
Right.
Now it all makes perfect sense.
Sure it does.
But so I thought at the time, I thought it could work. Clearly, it did not.
By the way, I asked Joe Thomas. I had Joe Thomas on my podcast this week. We were going to play a clip of that in the show, but we ran out of time, so we're going to play it on Monday. I asked him about at some point being the Browns coach or whatever. This is because I spoke to him just as they had hired the offensive line coach. But I asked Joe about a name that's not on the list, and that's Josh McCown, because I think Josh McCown would do a great job as offensive coordinator, and I think he'd really connect with whatever quarterback you're going to bring in here, because he's been on a million teams and he was a quarterback forever in the league. And Joe, I'll take it with a grain of salt, because it's not like Joe's got to badmouth Josh McCown, but he went on and on about how he thinks Josh McCown is and is going to continue to be an ascending, excellent coach in the NFL. I'd love to see the Browns talk to him, because he's another guy that I don't think he feels like he's ready to call plays yet.
I disagree.
Yeah,
I think Josh McCown, a former quarterback, I think that's the reason he's not on the list.
Yeah, maybe
he's ready to call these plays. A lot of these guys, that's a big thing to an offensive coordinator. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's your identity. It's like your baby. Like, that's your work on display, especially if you get to work with a quarterback. So, a lot of guys. Now, don't get it twisted. Like, it's still a great opportunity. Not saying that these guys won't have any input in what's going on during the week. But the holy grail is I wouldn't call these plays. I'm going to put my stamp on the game.
Yeah.
McCown's the quarterback's coach. So any OC job would be a promotion for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there might be some teams, as G says, and it's fair, that want to hire him as OC.
Sure,
to
I'm just
call
saying
plays.
right now he's a quarterback coach.
Right.
He's not even an OC yet.
Yeah.
But I like Kubiak as a guy that they will probably give strong consideration to. And Tommy Rees is really, really highly respected, both within the Browns and around the – you saw him come up in the North Carolina job. You've seen him attached to other jobs. So if they don't give him the coordinator role, he will leave. He'll get a coordinator job somewhere else.
Okay.
All right, we're going to get back to the Cavs here. I want to do the Super Chats real quick. We only have 3 today, so we can spend the rest of the show dissecting this last Cavs topic. But Ray Smith says, the Cavs are amazing. The Buckeyes are amazing. The show is amazing. Have a great weekend, Cleveland. Kool-Aid Mafia in the building. We appreciate that, Ray. Kevin Robinson says, the Browns should look at Trey Lance. And Daryl Green says, UCSS, please petition the Browns to keep Nick Chubb at all costs. We all hope he sticks around here in Cleveland, without a doubt. All right, last topic before we head over to WKYC and the WKYC Plus app for the final 30 minutes of today's show. This current iteration of the Cavs are 32-4. Back in 2015-2016, the Cavs won the
Aren't
title.
they 33-4, Mike?
Yeah, they're
33-4. Yes, I forgot about last night. 33-4.
Yeah.
Jason,
Why you got to do this?
in a 7-game series,
Why you got to do this?
this Cavs team versus that championship team. Who wins in a 7-game series? We put this in the chat and on our community tab. We over 2,000 votes. 2,000 votes.
I guarantee you our fans have said that this team would win.
Yeah, why
60-40,
you gotta,
they'll pick this team.
We've had such a good show.
I know.
We've said such great things about the Cavs all week long. And now you got to pull their pants down at the last 15 minutes of the week like that. Yeah. No, they're not beating that 2016 team.
I agree.
Come on.
I agree.
No.
It'll be close in the chat. I'm surprised it is this close. Listen, I'm going to just let y'all know something. It's levels to this. That team in 2016 beat the greatest team of all time on the road with great performances. And it's peak LeBron. It is peak Kyrie.
Yeah.
You're not losing. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care what. Listen, Evan Mobley, I love you. I love Donovan. You know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid with y'all.
Who's guarding LeBron?
Nobody.
Yeah, that's the thing. That was my
Dean
first
Wade.
question. Okay. Oh,
Nobody.
sure.
Jason, you can't praise Dean Wade.
Dean Wade
Warrior like
man,
that.
bro,
The Vanilla
listen.
Wolf.
Wouldn't you have to put Mobley on him?
Man, look,
Whoever you put on will have Michelin marks
Yeah.
on
Well,
their
is it
back.
a clean sweep? Is it the 16?
Of course.
Cavs? Okay.
Of
Getting
course.
put in the rim, bro.
We all love this team.
Yeah.
The good news is there's no
We don't gotta
there's
choose.
no 15-16 Warriors or 15-16 Cavs
It's a
in this
different
NBA.
league right now.
Now, here's
It's a
what I will
different
say.
league.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and sweep the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals and smoke the Thunder in the gentleman's sweep,
Then we'll talk.
Then we got it. We
Then
We
can
we'll
talk.
can't even
We had to
can't
talk.
even have a legitimate argument until they win a championship.
Yeah,
That was my point. That was my point.
Come on.
What
We're
have
not
they
gonna do
done?
that.
They've had an all-time great regular season start.
Yes.
Okay, that's as silly as asking, is Quan going to hit 400 in June?
That's wild.
And Tyvus sat in your chair all the time. He's hitting 400, guys. No one is hitting 400 ever again.
Never.
Let's get that out of the way once and for all.
I seen that.
Never.
I
The
seen that
pitching is
man.
too specialized.
I seen that man LeBron almost beat Durant, Steph, Draymond, and Klay Thompson by himself.
Yes.
With Rodney Hood and Jordan Clarkson. You playing around with that man's legacy. Stop playing. I love you, but y'all got to.
Now, what would please tell me that the chat was
Come on, chat.
on
I'm
our
going to
side
give you
here.
the 2 different chats because we did the community tab and in the live chat right now. In the live chat right now, just shy of 1,000 votes, 963 votes. 55% went with the championship team. 55%.
God.
At least y'all smart.
Embarrassing.
Okay,
Good.
Okay, thank
They
you.
got it right, but
You
barely.
got it right, but
Barely got it right.
45%.
The community tab
I bet this was worse.
with over 1,400 votes. 60% for the championship Cavs.
Okay,
Wow,
okay,
40%
Cleveland.
for this year.
Okay,
Good.
Cleveland.
Okay.
I want to pull the curtains back for 1 sec, but I called Bull yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, Bull, I'm going to do
Yeah.
this topic. Who do you think I could get? Jay, I was convinced you were.
We were both convinced that Jay was going to say this
Oh
team.
my
I
God,
was
are you
convinced
kidding
that
me?
you were
Come on,
going
man.
to.
And
I honest to
Jay's
God,
not
when I got
watching.
the text
Yeah.
for the rundown last
Yeah.
night, I said, why are we asking this question?
Yeah.
This is stupid.
We
Well,
thought
now
we
it
could
looks
get you.
stupid. I thought we'd get G. I thought G was going to be.
Thanks for the confidence, number one.
Well, no. But you sometimes get swept up in the moment.
Not sometimes, all the time.
Yeah, like
My
There ain't a
moniker
big
for
enough
me, I'm a
room for
great
this
sports
one.
fan. I'd be the worst general manager. Last year on this show, in what I think is my worst take ever, I screamed and yelled, if this team doesn't trade either or both Mobley and Garland, they'll never win a title. I was pounding my fist because on their run without those two, they had played all-time great Cavalier basketball.
In your defense, I think we all said some version of that.
I know, but I was so emphatic. Look,
No. I never said they needed to trade Mobley and Garland. Don't put me in that boat.
I did. I screamed it from the mountaintops, and I was wrong.
We need to do a collage,
Thankfully.
for a 1 hour collage of the worst takes.
Instead of worst take.
Worst takes.
That would be part one.
That would be part one. Guys,
I think your worst one.
4,500.
Your worst one. Oh, Watson's throwing for 5K.
5,000.
5K.
4,500.
Well,
I know what mine is. Donovan's going to New York.
Well, and Jed Wills is good at football.
That was.
I said he was average.
All right, Bull, we've all talked about our worst takes on the show. What's yours? Baker sucks?
Well, really, that the Watson trade was great, but I wasn't far from alone in that one.
Yeah, no, yeah.
His hate of regular season basketball is kind of crazy. Because now he loves regular season basketball.
It's not. I want to admit it, but nothing's.
I know what you're.
I think you're right. The Watson.
I don't want LeBron back here. Screw him.
You love the Watson
When did I
trade.
say that?
You said that, and it was stupid.
Did I say it on this show or on the fan?
No, I think on the radio.
On the radio, I said plenty of dumb things. There was one point I said the Browns should sign Josh Freeman to be their quarterback. I mean, Mike, what's my worst take?
I think you're right on the.
I'm trying to think.
He loved the Watson trade more than anybody.
Well, the Bull's worst take was, I can make it through the show today. I'm coming in.
That's right. That's right.
Earl's worst take is that Donovan is better than
LeBron.
Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That's not Earl's.
No, actually, Earl's worst take was the Rams would accept an offer of DPJ and a fourth.
Yeah, that was pretty bad too.
That he wouldn't give up more than that. That he wouldn't give up more than that.
Yeah, that might be worse than Donovan.
Mikey's worst take was that you should be able to put a moat in the outfield.
Yeah.
Or that defensive players should be able to carry a knife.
Great takes. No,
on the field.
My worst take, I'm pretty convinced if we go back to it, was the baseball. Do you send the guy from third on an infield hit with one out in the ninth? And even though it ended up working out in my favor, in hindsight, I saw it happen 35 times after that where it worked where I was wrong.
Right.
I think I got lucky and got prisoner of the moment and thought that one time was how it works. No, I was wrong.
I mean, there's been a lot of bad takes. I want to highlight more of mine, but I can't think
You know what one of the worst takes by the Cleveland media is? That UCSS wouldn't be here after 6 months. That was a terrible take.
There was some rooting for that, some people.
Don't hate.
We got 5 minutes real quick. Let's squeeze this last thing in because I don't think it needs more than 5 minutes. If everyone missed it, the city of Cleveland last week sent a letter to the Browns trying to enact the Modell law and basically said, you have to give us a week to purchase the team if you plan on moving it. Yesterday, the Browns responded to Mayor Bibb and said, we'll see you in court.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I've talked to a couple of lawyers that are contract lawyers that have basically told me, and Jason, maybe you've covered this a little bit too, they've basically told me that the Modell law has absolutely no teeth. It was a ceremonial...
So doesn't Mayor Bibb have to know this too, though?
What's that?
Doesn't the mayor have to know this?
Yeah, but it doesn't keep you from throwing the Hail Mary.
What is the point? Why is he doing
this?
Then?
It's there, and if you don't cite it and you don't try it, then your constituents look at you and say, why didn't you use the Modell? So he had to do it.
Or if he's trying to move up in life,
it has no teeth.
His party's going to say, why did you not oppose this?
100%.
Here's what needs to happen, and I think the Browns have tried this. The city and the team need to come together, and the Browns need to say how much. What's it going to take?
Yeah, what's the number?
Give us a number. Because Jimmy will write checks. Jimmy loves writing checks. And he just saved $45 million. He can add that to the check to the city.
That's wild.
And you tell the city how much we will be part of the redevelopment of the lakefront. Tell us what you need.
Yep.
That is a great idea.
And it's not like that hasn't been done, but the city then has to come up with a number. And both sides can shake hands, and this can end amicably without court. And I still think that's possible.
Everybody looks like a good guy.
Everybody wins. Some bread on what
and if it because
I like that.
Here's the problem though, Jay. The city has done a research project that said that this would cost them hundreds of millions a year. They would lose.
I don't know. There is a number out there. I have to believe there is a number out there.
So if you're talking 10 years, that's $1 billion in losses
Well,
if it was $100 million. I don't remember what the number was.
I think that's probably highly inflated. I think all those numbers are inflated.
Maybe it was 35
There has to
million.
be
I
a
can't remember
number.
what the number was.
There has to be a number out there that both sides can agree on. And if it has them stay involved in redeveloping whatever the city wants to do with that, there's a way that this can still end amicably. The thing that I worry about is 15 years from now, if this thing goes to court and the Browns win and the Modell law gets thrown out, okay.
Which would be my expectation.
What happens in 15 years when the Guardians lease is up and they want a new dome? What happens?
It's a good question.
So, and nobody's talking about that and nobody's thinking about that right now, but I'm telling you, the Guardians have wanted a dome for a really, really long time because of April and May.
Sure.
And it was a non-starter when this thing, when they went through their stadium renovations. They knew, like, the Dolans certainly don't have the money to put up half for a new stadium. Like,
No.
that was never even negotiated. But the lease that they signed, I think, is for 15 years. And in 15 years, that stadium will be what, 40 years old? It's going to need replaced. What do you do? And I'm just saying, end this amicably now if you're the city and leave whatever.
In 15 years, it'll be closer to 50 years.
Yeah, it opened in
It's
94,
30,
right?
It's 30. Yeah, this will be the 31st.
So, and unless you want this to become Wrigley and Fenway, and maybe you can. I'm just telling you, I know there are a lot of people who work there that would like a dome. So, and it's nothing you have to worry about today or even tomorrow or 10 years from now.
But it is down the
But
road.
it's coming.
Yeah.
And you could say the same thing for Quicken Loans Arena. Like, for all the updates that they made, they're still in the bottom half of, in terms of NBA arenas, it's still in the bottom half of the league. So just something to keep in mind. I would like to see them come together, figure out a number. Jimmy will write the check. Both sides shake hands and move on. And
He's writing a lot of checks.
He's writing a lot of checks.
Got a minute left. Final thoughts from anyone on the dome situation?
Dolans ain't getting no dome. I was like, now if they give it, hey,
Dolans will just put a bunch of umbrellas up there.
Nah, yeah, y'all gonna have to have ponchos on out there, bro.
Yeah.
Like I need 3 bats.
By the way,
There's no way.
And I would be against a dome for baseball. I mean, I know that
It'd have to be
it would have to be
retractable.
retractable.
Yeah.
Retractable.
And I understand that, so it's the best of both worlds.
But that's even more.
What?
Like, that's even.
It is a lot more.
By the way, I did remember.
But you put a dome on a baseball stadium
Yeah.
in Cleveland and ask people to go to games in July. Good luck.
Yeah.
I did have a terrible take about the Guardians. I said the Guardians won the Lindor trade after Jimenez.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
early indications were they did.
Yeah.
But with more precincts reporting, they
Yeah.
got they did.
Yep.
they
See
did
you on
not.
WKYC in 3 minutes.